Jed and Tom have been talking all along regarding something like this happening after the hot start. I mean, I'm not saying they talked about it in April, but I think by May and June, there was conversations heading in this direction. And I do think the timing is important. I think it's just for everyone to know that he has the future of this organization, you know, in his heart, in his head, not just the season and trying to get an extension for himself to, you know, by getting the Cubs to the playoffs. So I think the timing wasn't a coincidence. And as we talked about since spring training, they were looking for a reason to bring him back. If you think about it, since 21, to me, his only real mistake was not forecasting that this thing would take a little bit longer. Like, Jed knows what he's doing. I've always said that to you. Could he have a little bit of a flaw that he's not as aggressive as we'd like? Yes, though he proved this offseason he has that muscle in him. But the guy knows what he's doing. He rebuilt this thing. It's not his fault that all those guys came up at the same time. He made the tough decision of trading them. He's done a lot right since 21. He just should have told the public this is going to take a while, but no executive likes to do that. So I'm not surprised it happened based on the start that they had, and I'm not surprised by the timing of it.
The Schwarber thing was a bad look too, like especially the way he is raked since. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there hasn't been a ton of mistakes.
Schwarber and even Darvish, you can maybe pick it upstairs a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and go to bat for every move that Jed's made, but we know from biblical losses and other things Tom Ricketts has said, there were some payroll considerations. Now, look, I'm in Milwaukee. The Brewers don't have the payroll, and they keep winning. So, again, I'm not going to say Jed's been perfect, but whether it be Schwarber or Darvish, there were some considerations outside of his control. But, look, every thing is a decision. Every day is a decision, and he's made as many bad as good, I guess. But I think he has rebuilt this thing since 21 in a pretty good manner.
Jess, does the personal job security change how he goes about doing what he needs to do before the trade deadline?
I don't think so. I haven't talked to him yet. He's going to hold a presser on Thursday after the deadline. I think that this certainly gives him peace of mind. I think it was more for the public than anything. I really do. They could have done this next week if they really wanted to. But I think Tom Ricketts and even Jed to a certain extent wanted the public to know that he's got the future, you know, in his mind as much as the present. So I don't really think it impacts what's going to happen between now and Thursday. At least I'd like to think it doesn't, because Jed's been around the block. And even the council mentioned, like, Jed kind of often feels like he's young in this game, but this guy has been doing this for a long time around some of the really good executives like Theo. So I don't think whether he got this today or next week would impact the deadline. At least I don't want to believe that.
Yeah. It was a seller's market to begin with, Jesse, and now with Clase getting shut down by MLB for the gambling investigation, and then with Seth Lugo getting extended, that takes two more players who a lot of teams coveted off the market. So is it going to cost even more to land someone you really want?
Well, right now it is. Right now it's still really high. The Washington wants Matt Shaw and one of the top prospects from the minors in a McKenzie Core trade. I don't think Gore's going to get traded. I don't think the ace of the Twins, Joe Ryan's going to get traded. The Diamondbacks are in play. We know that. You've asked me about a Suarez-Kelly deal. I still think that's a possibility, though third base is not a priority. The way Shaw's played since the break has helped, and the fact they want to put all their assets into pitching is also important here. I've mentioned I'm writing tomorrow, so I'll give you a preview. Shane Bieber coming back from injury. They view him as a possible Matthew Floyd type situation from last year. A few regular season starts really helped the Guardians in the playoffs. Don't discount a guy like Shane Bieber coming back from Tommy John. Adrian Hauser is in play for the Cubs. That's just has to and Hoyer have to come to the right agreement on a prospect back. I know those are second tier guys. Merrill Kelly is a little bit better than that in play, and I'm sure there's some names that I just don't know and haven't been out there yet as well. But I'm not sure the real home run in Gore is really available to them. So it's going to be as much quantity as it is quality. They're getting Javier Assad back. They're getting Jameson Taillon back. There's going to be a good number of starters here that they didn't have a few days ago when you include the ones they get in the trade deadline. It just might not be the Grand Slam fans want. It still has a chance. And certainly Kelly is in there. He's having a good year. He's pitching the World Series. But I don't know about Gore. I still have my doubts there.
How about the team they're facing tonight, Jess? How active do you believe the Brewers will be before the trade deadline? It's historically they're not going to spend the money that the Cubs spend. They don't do a lot of risky stuff. But do you think because of what they're doing so far this year, they may extend themselves a little?
Not really. They picked up a catcher today from the Rays, Danny Jansen, backup guy hitting 200. That's an inventory move. I don't see them doing a whole ton. They have a really solid starting staff. The Cubs are going to see their best three this week. Their lineup's pretty good. I mean, they could use Suarez like anybody could. Sure. I don't see them doing that. I don't see them mortgaging a big prospect for one of these guys. They'll do something. They'll do more than Danny Jansen today. But no, I think the Cubs will do more than the Brewers, just like they usually do, whether it be the offseason or the deadline. And Milwaukee feels like they can win the division as is. They could get in the wild card as is. I think they'll do some things in the margins, but nothing big. That's my opinion today. Milwaukee is one of those mysterious teams. They don't forecast a lot. They don't do a lot. But once in a while, at the deadline, they have hit a home run. I don't necessarily hear that right now, but let's see how it plays out.
Jess, the starting pitching matchup tonight is outstanding. What are you expecting with Boyd against Mizrowski?
Well, Mizrowski, they're treating like Garrett Crochet a little bit. He's on like a pitch count. He only threw 3 2/3 innings last time out after the All-Star game, which he pitched in. So maybe you can get him out of the game early. 75 pitches, I think, is going to be around his limit for most of the rest of the season, although they might extend him in a big September game. So
why are they, Jesse? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
why are they doing that when they're in the thick of this?
Same reasons you see it all the time. Steven Strasburg, Crochet. Now they were out of it, but they just want to protect the arm. The guy throws 100. They're getting more out of him than they thought this year. So they're just going to protect the arm. Maybe they unleash him in the playoffs if the Brewers make it, but just trying to get him all the way to the end of the season and into October. I mean, that's the way baseball works these days, especially with guys that throw 100. Tyler Rocky doesn't sound so crazy talking about Matthew Boyd for game one, right? I mean, Shota blew up on Friday. Mm-hmm. They're really digging into what happened there. They think it's a one-off. They're not positive, but they think it is. But right now, Matthew Boyd is pitching like an ace. I expect another great performance tonight because he's been great all season.
Jesse, Silvy pointed out earlier that Michael Busch has struggled at the top of the order. We know that Counsell has, been willing to jockey his batting order. Do you think that they'll move him out of there for the time being?
I think if Happ becomes Happ again, and there are some signs, I do think that switch will go back. I think Counsell really wants to go back to that in the long term. He can lead off against lefties and righties. Right now, there's not that many guys that are hot. Nico is hot, and of course, Matt Shaw is hot. But there's not many other guys that are. They need Tucker to get hot again, Seiya to get hot again. So, I think he's still trying to figure out exactly what he wants to do. But I think he really does want Happ back at the top. Happ has to start taking some more walks. That's usually part of his game, and it hasn't been as much. That home run against the White Sox may have helped him get out of it. He was telling me about his expected stats are still pretty good, and then he hit that home run. So I think they'll end up with Happ back up there on a more permanent basis again.
What do you think of what the Sox showed over the weekend? Like Friday, they just took it to the Cubs. Like they were ready, and like you talked about with Shota didn't have it, but the Sox were very impressive. And then Saturday and Sunday, not as much so, and they made some Soxy mistakes yesterday.
Yeah, they did. I mean, it shows the youth of it all, right? That you're going to have moments like that you won't necessarily see on the Cubs or Brewers who have been around the block a little bit more. I really liked what Ben Brown and Kate Horton did Saturday and Sunday. I mean, for both of them to perform that way after what Shota did, I thought the Cubs were going to lose that series the way the Sox were hitting after Friday. But they made some bad mistakes. I mean, Nico Horner play was great. I'm always talking about Nico, about plays like that. Would you drop a pop-up to allow a slower runner get to first so you can get the force out at second? Here, he dared the guy to, because the runner on second didn't have to go. He didn't have to go.
No, of course not.
And he went because you sort of panic when the ball drops. Nico's one of those smart players. I used to talk to Jason Hayward about him, Baez, and Rizzo kind of playing on another level. Just play, and I feel like Nico and Dansby do that a lot. So that was as much on Nico as it was, I guess, on the runner. But the Sox showed some youth in those final two games for sure.
Jess, back to Kyle Tucker for a moment. In the month of July, he's had 1 home run. He's only driven in 6 runs. He's got a 200 average and an OPS of 609. Is he dealing with anything like physically that is keeping him from being the guy that he normally is?
I think the short answer to that is yes, but not enough to really use that as an excuse. He's been banged up for a while, and he tends to get banged up because of his swing path. You saw him take a ball nearly right off the knee. Counsel mentioned that it didn't really get him as bad as it looked, so that's why he stayed in the game and hasn't missed any time. So the answer is yes. He's a little nicked up here and there. He goes to the ground in the outfield. Sometimes happens. He's had some awkward slides, but I'm not sure it's enough to say this is why he's slumping. He's had his moments. I mean, it had a hot April, a little bit of cooled off in May, hotter June, I believe, right? It's been kind of back and forth. I don't think that that's the reason. But, yeah, I mean, maybe his swing is a little bit off because of it. But he should be out of the lineup if it's impacting him that much, and I don't think it is.
Let me paint you a picture, Waddle, with what was going down yesterday at the rate. A little pregame action, and I saw from afar George McCaskey with somebody at the Cubs game. It was about a half hour, 40 minutes before the game. And then, sure enough, George and his friend came walking up our aisle, and we were in the back row just sitting in the shade. And it was just Braxy and me at the time. Allie and Mason went to go get something to eat. And so I stopped George, and he could not have been nicer. He gave the kids some Bears coins, took it out of his thing. And then, I started getting into a really detailed conversation about the stadium, and he was about to tell me where they were going to build the stadium. And here comes Jesse Rogers bolting in saying,
Hey,
George,
buddy!
Hey, buddy, George, it's Jesse. How are you? And then I never got the stadium action. So thanks for that, Jesse.
I have no idea if
Classic
you're exaggerating or not, because I did not know that was the conversation. I was really wanting to see Mason and Braxy. That's why I came over to. I didn't want to see you and Allie. Of course, I'd like to see. But then George is there.
Whoa.
I thought I get some Bears info as well. But I'm sorry I interrupted.
No. There was nothing like that going on. There was no. But
Hey, buddy, how about a stadium breakdown?
But what I did mention to you afterwards is just how anonymous George McCaskey can be at an event. Like, even a Bears game, I think he can be somewhat anonymous. He's wearing a jersey and stuff. So it's just kind of funny to,
he was wearing
Bears or whatever.
He was wearing the Bad News Bears jersey, and he had the number 7. Wasn't that George Hallis's number? I got to double check, but I think it is.
Yeah, it is.
So I like that. I know what he's going for there with the Bad News Bears, and he's a huge Cubs fan.
Yeah.
I didn't know how big of a Cubs fan George was. He was even talking a little trash to the White Sox.
I heard that. Yeah, I saw George walking in the other day.
So funny. Yeah, it was so funny.
Any other news, Jesse? Trade-wise, did we cover everything?
Yeah, I mean, they're still scouring for relievers as well. I mean, there's so many that are available, from Iglesias on Atlanta, Finnegan on Washington, Fairbanks, I think, is available. But even those prices are high. Mike Soroka, there's some interest there with the Nats, and that price is high. I mean, he's got like a 4.8 ERA. So I was talking to Tyler before I went on. I mean, it's just a game, a week to 10 days out. Everyone's just like, I was going to say something, R-rated. They're just playing a game until the final 48 hours. I mean, that's it. It's like, hey, well, can you give us your top prospect for Mike Soroka? No, we're not doing that. But at the end of the day, we know there's going to be a ton of action, maybe starting tomorrow, but definitely Wednesday and Thursday. And I still predict, if you put the over-under at 2.5 new players in the Cubs organization, I still would take the over. Now, maybe someone gets thrown down to AAA. I think I mentioned that Friday. But I think there's going to be at least 3 new players in this Cubs organization. I'm writing for tomorrow. I'm not calling it all in, but mostly in. All in would be Owen Casey for a rental. That's not happening. But mostly in is going to be as aggressive as possible without giving up the farm, like the Gleyber Torres for Aroldis Chapman trade.
All right. Good stuff, Jesse.
Thanks,
you.
Jess.
All right, and thank you, Charlie. Jeff Miller never made me an open. I appreciate it, buddy. Take care, guys.
It's awesome.